Welcome to the Cory Lee Show, where our focus is on building leaders and transforming culture. My name is Cory Lee, and in each episode, I aspire to ignite something on the inside of you that encourages you to grow yourself and to make an impact on the world around you. Welcome to the Cory Lee Show. Welcome back to the Cory Lee Show. Hey guys, got a super exciting episode today. This is the very first episode in the podcast recording studio that I've interviewed somebody live and in person. We've done some through Zoom. I've done my own in this podcast recording studio. But you know what, Grant? You're the very first one in person. And so super excited about that. Our guest today, Grant Trussell. I met Grant. I guess we met first at church. We were together at church. And then our youngest son would call you Coach Grant because you coached a soccer team, Little League soccer team, our club soccer team, and just made an impact on him. And so you are now with FCA. You also help with soccer. You teach and coach soccer. You go in with FCA to make an impact on all these student athletes' lives. You doing big things. And so, Grant, just want to say welcome to the Cory Lee Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Cool. We're excited about our conversation. I know you were a podcast veteran, you say? No. You said this is the first time, so it's all good. I don't know if any of you guys out there listening, if you've been on podcast or you go on a podcast, this still is a little bit nerve-wracking, especially the first time you've ever been. And so, but I know Grant's going to do an awesome job and add value to you guys who are listening. And so, Grant, I told a little bit about your story that you do some coaching, you do FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, so you do some ministry work, basically a local missionary is what you do. And so I would love just to hear kind of your journey and how did you get, from where you are to where you are today?
Well, it kind of starts based off when I got into ministry. It started probably last year. I started it's been weird my last 5 years, my journey completely, but in terms of just ministry, I started it was last summer. At the beginning of the summer, I started a Bible study at my house, and we just met at my house on Tuesday nights and just dove into the Word. We got into James, and we started with 4 people, and then we ended with 13 by the end of the summer. So it was a really good kind of entry. And I was like, I like this. This is fun. This is something that I'm interested in. And I'd never done anything like that before, ever.
Wow.
I just never, I don't know, even with Sunday school, I was never really involved with Sunday school or youth programs or anything like that. But it was out of my comfort zone at first, leading something like that. But it was definitely interesting, getting started. But throughout the summer, I definitely gained confidence in it. But as the year went on, I started working in camps and stuff, just leadership roles, just, whatever it may be. And I was like, okay, I like this, And I definitely felt not just my own personal, I like this, stuff like that. It was definitely a God thing. It was a divine intervention of him saying, this is something that you need to be doing. And I definitely felt that the more I got involved with it and started working D-Now and stuff like that and just getting involved in the kids' lives. And I think the biggest impact or the biggest reason I have, if that's a good word to use, but I know where I was at that point in my life. Being a high schooler, middle schooler, and it was not where I needed to be because growing up in the South, Bible Belt and stuff, you think you got it. You think you know it growing up in church. And, my parents are wonderful parents, not anything on them, but you just think you got it. You think you know everything when you really don't. Yeah. As a teenager, you think you know everything, and you come to find out you hardly know anything. And I think my biggest reason is just helping them understand that there's more to life than, even though I'm doing work with sports, there's more to life than sports, girls, whatever it may be. that's, you know, pulling them away from the Lord. And that's my biggest like reason for doing this, basically, is just to like help them understand what life is truly about.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. So you said you started that Bible study. Like, I was curious, what stirred within you to like, hey, let's do this Bible study? Was it something like your parents were doing, or is it something like, you know what, I just want to gather some friends?
No,
Like,
it was okay. So I'll give a little bit of a backstory of kind of who I am, so y'all can understand. Back to just saying I was raised in a Christian household, thought I knew everything, stuff like that. I had struggled a lot with depression and anxiety, just from, you know, not feeling, you know, worth anything, just, you know, the typical, you know, depression and what it may be. And it boiled down to not having a relationship with the Lord.
mm-hmm.
Like, that's just the core of depression in my eyes, at least. You know, different people have different stories and stuff like that. But it definitely was, you know, just my inner heart, you know, what truly mattered in life. And God was not at the center of my life. And I knew that. And my buddy, Carson O'Daniel, another little backstory. Let's see, it was about 2 years ago. I almost took my life.
Wow.
I had it not to be, you know, very, what's the word?
Yeah.
Word I'm looking for? Not to be too detailed. There we go.
Yeah.
And that, but, you know, I was planning on taking my life, and, you know, this guy, Carson, that I had not talked to in years, we ended up being at the same college, ICC, and we played soccer together, like club soccer at TFC. And that was about it. That's as far as our friendship extended to, was just, you know, being on the field together playing soccer. And he had posted his soccer highlights, and, you know, I clicked on it, and I was like, oh, this is sick. Like, this is cool. And I texted him, just reached out, and I was like, hey, man, like, this is really cool. Just telling him what I thought about it. And, you know, me knowing I'm not going to be here next week. You know, this weekend, it's over for me.
Wow.
And he just said, hey, man, let's get breakfast before class one morning. And I was like, okay, like, it's not going to matter. And so we went to breakfast, and we just sat down, and he was like, so, man, like, tell me everything. Like, tell me, how are you? Like, how have you been?
Wow. Took like a genuine interest in you.
Yeah, and I was like, this is the first time anybody has asked me how I am
wow.
in a long time. And it felt good, you know, to be not, what's the word? It just felt good for somebody to take an interest in me.
That's right,
you know?
yeah.
And so I was like, okay, maybe I have a friend now.
Yeah.
So I decided not to take my life. And we just became friends, like, even stronger than we ever were, and just grew together. And my life was not better at that point. Like, it was still, like, I was still suffering with depression and anxiety, but at least I had a friend.
Yeah.
And so I went through, you know, the next year doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, you know, college stuff, you know, the typical college life. And it wasn't fulfilling, you know, delving into things that are of the world.
Yeah.
And I just felt, you know, kind of the same, but it was on a high, if you know what I'm saying. And, you know, another year passed, and me and Carson were like, dude, this is not what we're supposed to be doing. Like, we're... So
he was doing it with you, like some of the same stuff?
Yeah, not to throw him under the bus or anything, but...
well, I think it's important to hear that where it sounds like you're going in the story. And so, you know, and by the way, I think... I mean, we've had all kind of folks on the podcast, and we've all got stuff like, you know, I do, you do, the people listening that not proud of, and I don't think anybody is feel like you're throwing him under the bus by any means, because it sounds like there has been a transition and a change in not only your life, but maybe even his too. So
for sure, we got to the point to where, like I said, like, we just weren't fulfilled, and I ended up going on a conference trip with RUF at Mississippi State, Reformed University Fellowship, and it was at Laguna Beach, and I was still, you know, struggling with sin and just living a life for the world and not, you know, for the Lord. And I was, dude, it was bad that week, because, like, I'm there posing as a Christian.
Yeah.
You know, like I claimed to be a Christian and I wasn't living it. And I heard, so the main thing during that week was in 2 Corinthians that he became sin who knew no sin. And a lot of what I was dealing with that depression was holding on to stuff. And I always try to explain this, but I do a horrible job at it. So I hope people understand what I'm saying. But when you sin, you like hold on to it.
Yeah.
If you're not, like if you, like the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And you can't do that. Like if you're sinning, but you're still trying to be a Christian, it's not going to work no matter what. And I knew that like deep down, but I didn't want to admit that to myself that I was, 1 foot, one and the other. And I didn't want to face Jesus on the cross. A literal picture of him bleeding out on a cross is something that I did not want to have to deal with because I don't like people to do things for me. And I was like, I can do this on my own. I can figure it out. And I just knew that like if I were to fully surrender, because there's a difference in like committing to Christianity than surrendering to it. Because when you surrender, you're giving up control.
Yep.
And I didn't want to do that because I don't like other people doing things for me. Selfish, And that's just what it boiled down to is I had to fully surrender and face him on that cross and say, here you go. It's you. You can have it. And not just, him on the cross, but like when I give it to him, he took it to the grave, buried it, and left without it.
Yeah.
He put it in the ground. And so that's when it really started for me. I started reading in James where it talks about faith without works is dead. And I, had the faith to an extent of like understanding what the Bible says in the gospel, but I didn't have the works or the fruits to show it at all. And so me and Carson were in the same boat at the same time. Like we came to each other kind of at the same time. We were like, hey, we don't need to be doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
We need to be living for the Lord. And so that's when it really started to transition for both of us. And then he actually like co-led that Bible study with me throughout the summer. And the decision to do the Bible study was about the works. Because we knew we had to do the work. Because a lot of people claim to be a Christian and they're not.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that way.
Yeah.
So that's what led up to the Bible study. And we did it in James. That's what we did the whole Bible study in. But it was so good. And it was definitely one of like the highs of my life. Like it was such a good experience.
That's awesome. I would be curious, Grant, as you were talking about, holding on to that, but until you fully surrendered it, you were still holding on and harboring something right there. What did it feel like once you're like, all right, I'll let go and I'm going to just lay this at your feet. I'm going to surrender it to you. Like that moment, because the reason I'm asking this is because we're in a culture now where you see anxiety and depression at all-time highs. You're seeing what you talked about, taking their own lives, suicide, especially in your generation at all-time highs. And I think what you're saying can really help a lot of people. That moment when you fully laid it at the feet of Jesus and allowed him to nail it to the cross, like what was that from an emotional standpoint and mindset standpoint for you? How was that for you?
To put it simply, like relieving. A lot of people think it's hard to be a Christian. And there are things that, you have to give up, but ultimately it's not. Because if you think about the reward at the end, you're getting eternal life with the Creator.
Yeah.
And emotionally, like my depression, I want to say it was like immediate, but like I obviously still struggle with sin. And, but from an emotional, it was like an immediate kind of turnaround. And it was like, I don't know, like I was driving one day and I literally felt my shoulders like just,
wow,
just relax.
So what was happening in your spirit came out in the physical. Like,
yes. It was like just relief.
Yeah.
It was really weird, but it was like, a good thing because I finally gave it to Jesus on the cross.
Yeah.
And that's like what has helped me, in my walk with Christ and just knowing like I can always go to him.
Yeah.
instead of like trying to hold things in.
That's right.
Because when you hold it in, like you're killing yourself,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally. There's, physical and emotional killing. And that's what it was. Like I was killing myself emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. I've talked about this on here before, but there's a verse of scripture that I don't say scare me, but sometimes you would read something and say, oh, it just hits you. It's like, oh, there's something on that. One of them is where Jesus is saying, many will come to me in that day. Many will come to me and say, Lord, Lord. Then we do all the cool stuff, all right? We cast out some demons, we healed the sick, we preached the gospel, and we did it in your name. And Jesus said, be away with me, I never knew you. And the word knew you just really stood out to me, because to be known, like if you and your buddy, you had to be vulnerable with him for him to truly know you. Me and my wife, I've got to be vulnerable for her to truly know me. And what Jesus was saying, you're doing all this stuff, but I never knew you. You didn't open up those areas of your heart for me to heal that anxiety. You didn't come to me in those moments, in the peaks and in the valleys. Like you didn't come with an open heart and vulnerability. So I never knew you. Yeah. I don't really know you, man. And that's kind of what I heard you say is like you got vulnerable with the Lord, you laid it out, and the surrender. Another thing in your story that stood out to me as well, there's a lot of them, but you talked about it's not easy being a Christian. And, I've just been thinking on this. I think one of the things that's most difficult about being a Christian is Jesus said, take up your cross daily. And I think we got a wrong perspective on what that means. I think sometimes we think, well, then I've got to struggle with these things and I've got to beat my flesh down. And like there's something fleshly that I can do. And in reality, it's surrendering my will. That's what it is. Like I want to do something. It may be a sin issue that I used to struggle with, and that desire comes up. And in that moment, am I going to take up my cross, meaning surrender what my flesh wants to do and take up and surrender to what the Lord wants to do in that moment. And I feel like that's probably the hardest thing is actually surrendering, letting go of that and allowing Him to do His work, And so anyway, you mentioned the Bible study. I'm just kind of curious myself. That was one of the highlights of your life, but within that, was there a highlight within the Bible study that stood out to you?
It was really like a little, community is kind of a weird word to use, but like we put together something that was just, I don't even know the words to describe it. Like it was just a good knit group. And I think that's what stood out is like just the vulnerability, going back to that, like how vulnerable we were with each other, and just how open. And the thing that stood out was just like the people that I knew, people that I grew up with, friends that I had that, I didn't know that they were struggling with these things. And I thought, I was the only one struggling. But like when you truly surrender to Christianity and you fellowship is a part of Christianity, that means you're vulnerable with each other because we are the church. Yeah. And, the Bible tells us to fellowship with others. And I think that's the thing that truly inspired me was like, there are other people that struggle just like I do, but, we can get through it together with the Lord's help, by going to the Lord. And, that was just another thing. Like, I like to hold stuff in. Yeah. But being a part of, and I encourage anybody that's hearing this to get involved with something, whatever it may be. I meet with a guy every week just for discipleship, just to, be able to hear the word from somebody else's perspective. Yeah. It's very refreshing is a good word to use, to be able to hear somebody else say things that, I wouldn't think of. Yeah. But that's probably what stood out the most is just what we created. Yeah. Based off of the Bible study.
That's awesome. You said that vulnerability in the community, and the opposite of that would be being isolated. And that's kind of what it sounded like you were leading up to. Oh, yeah. Kind of, now I've got a friend.
Yeah.
You felt isolated. As you talk about your story, outside looking in, I saw you, like I said, we first met at church, and outside looking in, you got it put together. The family's got it put together. You got, all the nice things that any, well, I won't say any, but you got all the stuff, right? Like, somebody outside looking in is like, man, that guy can't struggle with anything. But I'm wondering, like, what was there a tipping point that got you there, or was there like a slow fade into coming to the conclusion that, you know what, this world's better off without me? Like, like what led to that decision?
It boils down to selfishness, ultimately. The decision of not wanting to face Jesus is what it was.
Wow.
Like, I don't think people do this enough. Like, I don't think people truly understand that when you surrender your life to Christ, it is a full-on relationship. It's not, I don't even like the word religion.
Yeah.
Some people may get mad at me.
Yeah.
But
you're in the right place. If I had clapping hands, hold on a second. If I got clapping hands, here we go. I don't know if we got that. I don't know how to do it, but anyway, oh well.
That's okay. We can do it.
Yeah. Oh well. That's all good.
But I don't even know where I was at.
You don't like religion.
Yeah. I just think religion is the wrong word to use for Christianity, because it's a relationship. It's fully giving yourself up. Like, even in a marriage, like, you are, being vulnerable. You're committing to something else. You're surrendering your part of your life to your spouse. And I'm not married, so I'm not giving any relationship advice or anything. But the tipping point for me when I was like, I don't want to be here anymore, is just that I didn't want to face Christ. I chose myself over him at that point, and thank the Lord for Carson O'Daniel, for sending him. That was I don't even have words. I still tell him to this day that he saved my life.
Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying this episode of the Cory Lee Show. Y'all, I am on a mission to build leaders and to transform culture. So if you're looking for a speaker who speaks directly to the heart, a mentor to come alongside you and your team, or if you're in a position where you're looking for a personal coach who embraces where you are and also believes in who you could become, then I would be honored to walk this path with you. Simply reach out to me on my email at Cory@CoryLeeLeadership.com. Look, let's make your vision a reality. Contact me, and together we'll navigate the path from aspiration to achievement. Your transformation, it starts now. What does he say to that? Like, I'd be curious to hear his perspective. Like what caused him to say, yeah, let's go get some coffee or let's go get some breakfast?
The Lord told him. I don't know. We need to get him in here. Call him in here. But I really don't know. Like, he's just a nice guy. Like, even if he doesn't like you, he's gonna be friends with you. Yeah. He's just a good guy that will pretty much hang out with anybody, and that's what I needed at that point. So I don't like talking about it sometimes because it makes me sound like a loser, but it ultimately led me to where I am today, and I'm thankful for that and for him. But I just didn't want to face Jesus.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't make you sound like a loser at all, because you even said it in your Bible study. People were coming out and being vulnerable, and you realize, oh man, I'm not in this boat by myself. There are people out there listening to your story that's like, man, I thought I was the only one. And I know it's going to encourage them and inspire them to reach out to somebody, and even maybe you're not struggling with that, but maybe somebody comes to mind, and how important it is to have your buddy, like somebody like that in your corner, and how important it is to reach out in those scenarios. And so what about, you're getting to work with young kids. You're getting to do some of the camps with soccer. You're going to be working with schools. From your perspective, what do you see as the biggest problem or biggest challenge with your generation and even the generation under that?
It's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah.
A lot of problems.
Yeah. If there's a big one, what jumps out to you? Obviously, no right or wrong answer, but
Let's see. What's the biggest issue with my generation?
yeah.
See, I mean, there's a lot of them. It's
maybe
hard
some challenges you see in your generation.
I think, honestly, like social media is like a big one because, like, me and my brother were talking yesterday just about the difference in, like, when we were kids versus how kids are now. And, like, being a coach and coaching young kids, like, I can see their character development and stuff like that. Like, just like, okay, so this is so weird to me. There are kids at these camps that are, like, 8 years old that have phones.
Yeah.
And I think that is just outrageous.
Yeah.
Like, we're on break, like, snack, and there's a kid just scrolling on, like, TikTok or something. I'm like, dude, we're at soccer camp. And, like, enjoy being outside. Like, nobody knows how to be outside anymore. Like, video games are, like, ruining kids.
You sound like a 60-year-old. You know that, right? No. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Keep on going.
I
didn't
play
mean to cut you
video
off.
games now, but
Yeah.
just, I don't know. I think the way we grow up, and not to throw shade on, young parents, but, like, you gotta get them off the stuff, get them outside.
Grant, let me ask, before you go on, how old are you, Grant?
22.
22. Okay. All right. Listen to that. I mean, that wisdom, like, come on.
But yeah, like, even, kids don't know how to be kids anymore, I feel like. And people's imagination, like, people don't have an imagination anymore. Like, when me and my brother were growing up, we'd be outside playing, whatever it may be. But, like, the kids that I coach, some of them are just so goofy. Like, I'm not, I don't know if I'm allowed to say any of this.
Your kid isn't the one he's coaching, all right?
Yeah.
As you listen, he's not the coach of your kid, all right?
Yeah.
But he is of mine, so I don't know what that says. So.
No, Brady's probably my favorite one out there. Yeah. He's such a good kid. So congrats on a good kid. But let's see. Any other challenges?
Well, I want to ask you something. You said something I think is really interesting with the social media and how it is. It's easy for me to do this number. I don't spend a lot of time on social media, but it is very inviting or drawing to do that. But you said something that I think is very interesting. You said the character development. And I just think about if you're talking about 7 and 8 year olds on a phone scrolling through TikTok, what kind of character is being developed? And even if you've seen a shift in character, what are you seeing from a character perspective in some of the ones that are on, doing the scrolling?
This is going to sound bad, but like a lower intelligence.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that.
Hit the applause again.
Yes. Oh, no, it still hasn't downloaded. I used to play around with their kids a little bit, and they would listen to something, or they'd be watching these things, and I'm like, guys, we got to turn that off. I feel my IQ going down by the second,
100%.
And it was funny. Brady was watching something the other day, and Kendall walked by and she said, Brady, my IQ is going down by the second watching this. And he doesn't watch a lot, the YouTube stuff, and we don't. Sometimes he'll watch some of that, but I see that 100% is like, oh my goodness, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Oh, I got it.
Let's go. Come on.
I
knew he'd get it. I was just buying him time.
I know what the biggest challenge is.
Come on.
It's the acceptance of sin.
Oh, come on, talk about that.
It's, okay, so when I was in college, like, obviously the college life is drinking, sex, drugs, and stuff like that. And, it used to be a thing, well, I didn't live in the 1900s or anything like that, but I just feel like it's so socially acceptable now. Like, it's almost like a popularity contest. Like, if you drink the most, if you've been with the most, people, or if you do drugs or whatever, like, it's a popular thing. And that's one thing that I had to step away from completely just to be able to fully surrender my life, because, you know, we know getting drunk is a sin. And just a lot of people that I talk to, even some friends that still indulge in that activity, like I try to, you know, explain it to them, like drinking is not a sin, right? It's the over drinking. And I don't think people understand that. And yeah, I could talk about this forever.
Yeah.
But just it being socially acceptable, like, really gets under my skin. It bothers me so much, because there's so many people that claim to be a Christian that do it, and that tell me, oh, it's not the end of the world. I didn't murder anybody. But murder and all the other sins are the exact same in God's eyes.
Wow.
And people don't understand that. Like, yeah, you may not have, you know, killed anybody, but to God, you did, in a sense.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's the same in his eyes. And people just, it's like, they'll say, like, oh, he'll forgive me. You know, they'll do the act, and then they'll be, oh, he'll forgive me. You know, I'm a Christian. I go to church. Your typical Sunday Christian that doesn't, you know, pray every day, that doesn't read their Bible every day, have their quiet time. Like, those things are important that you need to be doing. And it's about that surrendering your life. Like, you have to give up things, whether you want to or not. Like, if you want eternal life with the Father, you got to give stuff up. And it just boils down to character development.
Yeah.
You know, what you want to be in life. Like, do you want to be known as the fake Christian that, you know, gets drunk and is just popular? No. You know, when I die, I want to go to heaven.
Yeah.
I don't care about, you know, how popular I am here.
Yeah.
Because the only eyes that matter are the Lord's. And I just think that's what the biggest struggle with our current society is.
Wow.
Just the acceptance of sin.
So the normalization, the acceptance of sin, and not even listening to the conviction of sin. And I feel like that is obviously that's got to be like a mindset, or just not adherence to the conviction of the Spirit, especially if you're claiming to be a Christian, just being totally opposed to Holy Spirit's voice in your life. You know, wow, I'll be honest with you, that's probably one of the most profound things I've heard in a little bit, coming from you, who is living in that and seeing it, right? Like, I work, most of the people I hang out with are business professionals. They're in the leadership world, and most of them, probably the youngest ones, are like late 20s, but most everybody's in 30s and 40s. And I love that perspective of how we have normalized sin. And as you say that, I can see it. I can see it. You can see it in advertising. You can see it in the movies that are being put out. You can see it in...
You can see it in church.
In church. Oh, come on. I'm going to let you just go on with that. Yeah, I like that, because I see it as well. So you want to take that a little further?
Well, I'll plug my book.
Yes. We talked a little bit about that. Go for it.
I'm in the process of writing a book, and it's called Christians Ruin Christianity.
Whoa.
And it's basically just about, you know, the normalization and the acceptance of sin in our society, and honestly, hypocrisy in the church. And I'm hoping to be done by the end of the summer. It's going to be, you know, probably like an hour read, you know, something that anybody would flip through. I'm not a big reader, so I'll try to make it something that I would read. But yeah, it's basically about kind of how our society is. And it has a little bit of my testimony in it, and my journey, and kind of where I was and where I am now.
Yeah. Yeah. So Christians ruin Christianity?
Christians.
Yeah. Okay. For those listening on podcast, you're not watching this, he's got air quotes. All right. And I can see that. And you know, one of the things that we talk about that we want to be is, we want to be just not people who call out problems and call out the challenges of culture, society, or even in church, but we want to be men and women who offer solutions as well. And I see that as well. I see the, you know, the fake front. But what are some of your thoughts on, like, how do we combat that? What are some solutions to it? Like, how do we awaken people out of that? You got any thoughts on that?
It's actually interesting because I'm in a Wednesday night class at my church. It's called Christian Worldview. And as we're going through it, it's talking about, how Christians are in society. And with that, we're talking about other religions and just basically what they believe and how they go about it. And as we're going through all of them, I've noticed they all have a strategy, every single one of them. Like
all the other religions, or
yeah,
okay.
Like Jehovah's Witness, Buddhist, Hindu, they go out and they tell it.
Yeah,
and I don't see that with Christians. I don't see any evangelism whatsoever. And I'm trying to do that now with FCA, and get out there and get them while they're young. But I think that's our biggest struggle in Christianity is like none of us are bold, and they don't. I don't know what it is. It's just we're scared.
Yeah,
essentially, like nobody wants to go out, and I think it comes from Christianity has a lot of rules. Another air quote.
Air quotes for the one listening on podcast.
That seem kind of out there in a way. And I think people are scared of other people thinking that they're judging them. And even with my journey, part of my testimony is I had to lose a lot of friends, and that's 100% okay. You have to figure out what works for you, and your ultimate goal is to have a relationship with the Lord, not to have 15, 20, 30 friends. That's not the goal in life. The goal is to have a relationship with the Lord, and that's goal number one, and that's it. And that's another, like I had to, 100% had to, cut people off to be able to get, focused on the Lord. And I think that's another thing people don't want to do is they don't want to cut people off because like you don't want to seem, rude, mean, judgy, stuff like that. Like just people are scared. Christians are just 100% scared, and that's what it boils down to.
Wow. You've really encouraged me with that. A few weeks ago, so we're recording in this new building. My wife and I bought a few weeks ago, and I've been thinking about doing another Bible. I was like, man, it'd be cool if we did a midweek Bible study and all of that. And I was praying one day, and I felt like the Lord said, Bible studies are nice. Those are nice. It's cute. Yeah. Bible studies are nice. And he said, and again, there's nothing wrong with Bible studies. I hope you're catching what I'm saying and where I'm going with this. I feel like the Lord said those are nice, and there's plenty of them. There's plenty of people who go out and serve meals. Those are nice. Those are good. It is time to be active and activated. What you just said, being bold. It's time to be bold.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I feel like we were going to do is once a week, we're going to meet here and we're going to really seek the Lord on what to do and what the strategy is. But we're going to take about 15 minutes. We're going to pray, get strategy, do any kind of teaching, and then we're going out into the streets and we plan to heal the sick, cast out demons, and raise the dead. I'm telling you, we're talking about prophecy. We're doing signs, wonders, miracles, just going with wherever the Lord goes. Well, we went out last Thursday. It was the last week, or the first time we went. And what we felt like the Lord was leading us to do was to intercede. And so to go down to Fair Park, I feel like he said Fair Park, we go down to Fair Park, we intercede. And one of the guys I was with said, I feel like there's somebody we're supposed to talk to with a bandana on. We see this guy, looked like he had a bandana on. It wasn't. We go over there and we pray for him, and we're talking to him, Grant. And he's made his way from South Carolina to Tupelo on a bicycle. Got his bike stolen in Birmingham, and he's one of the homeless people around here. And we asked him, the guy I was with asked him, he said, do you know that you know that you know that if something were to happen tonight, that you'd spend eternity in heaven?
That's what he said?
No, that's what the guy with me said to this guy. And the guy said, yeah, everybody goes to heaven. He said, everybody goes to heaven. And this guy was totally fine. Like his whole attitude was fine. And whenever he started talking about heaven, I'm telling you, something else spoke through him. Like I've never experienced this in person, but something else spoke through this guy, and he said, everybody goes to heaven, GD this and MF that, and like, I'm talking like attitude changed, tone of voice changed, everything. And the guy I was with was like, man, that's a lie. That's a lie. I was just talking to you. He called his name. I'm going to just make up a name, Bob. Bob, I was speaking to you. What just spoke to me just then was not Bob. I'm speaking to Bob again. And there is a heaven and there is a hell. And Jesus Christ is the way. And when you said that, be bold, I'm telling you, it took a lot of boldness for me to want to go out there. Yeah. And especially whenever this guy started talking kind of crazy, because I've never experienced anything like that. I've read stuff and I've heard other people. But I'm telling you, what you're saying, bold, we have weak faith that is untested. You know what I'm saying? Like in sports, you went to the gym and you got stronger. In soccer, you had certain skills that you had to work on to get better, right? But we're not exercising our faith, I don't think. And so when you said that, man, that's powerful. I can see that. Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, Grant, I know you've added a ton of value, man, and I know you've encouraged some people, and I know we're getting close on time here, but I wanted to ask you one last thing. If somebody were, they're wanting to reach out to you, maybe like, man, I'm in that situation. I need a friend, right? And I need somebody to talk to. And how would somebody reach out to you if they wanted to get in touch with you? Or you are a missionary with Fellowship of Christian Athletes. If somebody's like, you know what, I want to support him and his ministry, how would somebody reach out to you and how would they possibly support your ministry?
To answer the first one, if anybody wants to reach out, simple and easy ways, you can just check my Instagram, send me a DM, something simple like that. I think you can add stuff.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. There we go. But yeah, just shoot me a message. Just, you don't have to do small talk. You can get right into it. I've been there, so I know what it's like. But as far as FCA, I have a link that'll also be in the show notes that you can click on. You can check it out. It has different levels of giving. You can, do whatever you want to do on that. I would ask if you do to find me on Instagram and just let me know. That'd be the best thing to do, just so I can, keep everything in order. But yeah, that's probably the best way is you can reach me on Instagram, and then the link, you can check the link out, and it'll have a little kind of a description and then different levels of giving, and you can do different ways, annual, monthly, quarterly, whatever it may be.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll make sure to have that in the show notes below his Instagram page. I'm assuming if they want to keep up to date on your book, that's where they would reach out to you as well. And if they wanted you to come speak to their sports team or youth group or anything, I guess Instagram is the best place.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest thing to do.
Awesome. Well, Grant, man, you have added a ton of value today. And guys, thank you for taking a listen. If he has, I highly encourage you to reach out to Grant. Let him know the impact that he's had on you. Really want to encourage him as well in his ministry as he goes out and he's making an impact in the lives of that, not only his generation, but the next generation. He's working with 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, and then he'll be in middle schools and high schools. And so we just bless you in what you do, Grant. And so thank you guys for taking a listen. If this has added value to you, we just want to say, man, share it with somebody, share it with a friend, family member. You want to make sure that you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with any of the latest episodes of the Cory Lee Show. And we hope you have a great day, and God bless.
3, 2, 1, okay.
Thanks for joining me today. I hope I have added value to you. And if you have found value in this episode, let me know. Drop a comment and make sure you share with a friend or family member. See you next episode.